This is Beach Talk Radio. This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Bean Gene. Bean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Mondays with the Mayor. Mayor Dan Allers will join us at 10 minutes after 6 o'clock tonight. Get us an update on the beach renourishment, FPL, and everything else that's going on with the town. We have a special guest that's joining us for the first few minutes of the show, and there he is, Pastor Sean Kritzer.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
So a couple of weeks ago, maybe not even a couple of weeks ago, there was bedlam in the parking lot of the Beach Baptist when you and the Rotary decided that you were going to give away pieces of sheetrock to folks on the beach. And it went so well. There was a long line that you guys decided that you're going to do it again. So kind of fill us in on the details on what's coming up later this month.
Yeah, so it was bedlam craziness. We didn't expect anything like it. 4 miles of cars parked. We had a visit from the sheriff, who was a little surprised that traffic had been that disarrayed because of that. But yeah, we gave away 2,500 sheets, 25 to each household. So we met 100 household needs and turned away over 200. So that's kind of where we're getting our number from. So our goal is to give away 6,000 sheets on February 21st. Now, in true Beach Baptist and Pastor Sean form, we haven't raised it yet. Don't even know where you get 6,000 sheets of drywall, but we're pulling on some partners, and the Rotary Club has jumped on with us. It was her, Kelsey, and I kind of had the brainstorm together and said, let's just do it February 21st on a Tuesday. Okay. So we've got the funding area set up. I see you just popped that up there. If folks can go and donate the way my mind works is you've got 75,000 followers. If everybody will just jump on and give us $1, we're done. We've already raised 30,000. It takes 100,000 to do it. So 70,000 more bucks, and we get 6,000 sheets of drywall onto the walls of beach houses.
So that's beachbaptist.org, folks. I know with our you can't link to it from here, but you can see that if you can pop it in your browser and you can donate $1, $5, $10, whatever that you want to donate to help out. Now,
how much is a sheet of drywall?
Well, I believe we've got it negotiated down to about $10 or $11.
Okay.
Kelsey has all those numbers. Quite honestly, she has talked to Home Depot so much, and Home Depot's partnered alongside of us to get us a decent deal, because not only is it the drywall, but it's the sheet, the screws, the tape, and the mud to do those 25 sheets.
Now, you how do you determine whether or not the person that is coming through the line is from the beach? Because we certainly want to help the beach folks first, because they're going through so much there. Is there a way that you're confirming that they actually live or lived on the beach?
So driver's license is what gets you your drywall, and it's one set of 25 per household. It's not per person. It's not any of that. It has to be to your house on the beach. And this time it's the beach only. The last time when we did that 7,000 sheets were actually given out all over Fort Myers. We were just one of the stops. This time it's only Fort Myers Beach, all 6,000 sheets right to the beach.
That's great. And so it's going to be February 21st. At what time?
We're going to start the lineup. Well, lineup's going to start. We're going to actually start giving it away at 9 a.m.
So are people going to register, or they're just going to line up like they did, just first come, first serve?
First come, first serve. But what's really cool is that the sheriff department approached us and said, we'd like to partner this time. We're going to give you your own lane. We're going to take up your clean sidewalk that Beach Talk Radio is going to clean off. So
it's clean.
Luckily you did that. But yeah, they're actually going to manage traffic for us the whole mileage. There's going to be 2 entrances. one entrance with 2 lanes to give the drywall away. So we're going to use the Connecticut Street entrance side and then from the Estero side as well. We're not going to do anything else on the property that day. It's just going to be drywall. So it's going to go, I mean, it's going to take us a while. It took us 4.5 hours to do 2,000 sheets. Our goal is to do triple amount in twice the amount of time. So 8 hours to do 6,000.
So there's 30,000 raised so far. You need another 70,000 to get to 6,000 sheets. So if anybody is watching the show now, we're going to write a story for the newsletter tomorrow with a link to the donation page. All we're looking for, and I don't believe we have 70 to 75,000 actual folks that listen all the time. So maybe you might need to share this. You might need to move it along to some other people that you know that are willing to help out, because everybody wants to help out with a rebuild. And this is really getting specific into helping people rebuild. I mean, what other way can you do it but to buy them
Sheetrock.
walls?
Yeah.
You're buying the walls.
So I'm also hoping maybe somebody's listening that knows a gypsum contact. You know, there's the Gypsum International or Georgia Pacific. There's folks out there where Home Depot has to get the drywall. So if we skip a step, we can get more sheets for less money. And if that's the case, the money will either go back. We'll just donate the money back to you, or we'll put it in the fund and do more drywall. But we want to make sure everybody knows not $1 is going anywhere but to drywall. The last order, they had to pay people to unload. We've got the town to help us donate their time of forklift. The drivers are all going to be donated this time. The haulers are all donated. So all volunteer, dinners for free this time, donated. So every dollar is going straight to drywall materials.
Kathy wants to know if part-time residents can show a utility bill or only full-time.
Yeah, you know, the way the Rotary Club's the one that kind of does the check-ins and stuff. It's all based on driver's license. I think we could, let's table that.
Okay.
You know, I think if you got a house on the beach, they're not really wanting to help those with second houses, I think, but you know, don't quote me on that either. You know, we don't want to turn anybody away, man.
Right.
I mean, we want everybody to get the help they need. Let just table that, or have somebody call, maybe send me an email, Sean@beachbaptist.org. Give me the options of what your problems could be about getting your driver's license. Let me talk it over with Rotary Club, and I think we'll overcome whatever hurdles come our way.
Now, I know John Lala went down and volunteered his time to try and deliver drywall, but I only think he could do it once because he couldn't get back. He couldn't get back to the church because the line was so long. Are you going to need help, volunteers to help deliver the drywall? Because not everybody has a truck.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, how are people going to get that on there?
You know, this last time on the 2,500 sheets, we only had 4 people request a delivery.
Wow.
And we had a guy that we had to pay for it, but we had a guy that took 4 families drywall to them. Most people got their neighbors, or they got, you know, honestly, if they've already got somebody working on their house, they've usually got a truck. So we had a lot of workers bring the residents with them, and the residents showed their ID and got their drywall. So there's plenty of ways to do that. But I think, you know, with 6,000, we might end up with, 10 or 12 people that need deliveries. And if that's the case, absolutely is the answer to that question. We've already had 2 people also volunteer to deliver drywall. So if you're out there and you want to do that, we're going to have to get you into the parking lot early. And what we'll do is we'll either get you loaded with multiple families that you can go deliver, or we'll do you at the end. We'll get it done.
Okay.
So somebody was saying, Patty Kelly wrote in that she has a pro account with Home Depot, and that she will ask her manager what more they will discount. That pro accounts goes through the bid room to receive additional discounts. Is that something that sounds familiar?
Yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about, and we welcome that call from her if she'll do that. But yeah, we don't. The only way we're going to actually have somebody ship us drywall is if, like, one of the manufacturers or the wholesalers would let us do it. We have some shipping set up. If there's a manufacturer up in Georgia or Idaho or whatever, that's just the dates I've been told. We can actually get it hauled. So all of it's going to be bought. So we take anybody that can help us get a discount. And, we're willing to go buy 1,000 sheets from Lowe's and 2,000 sheets from Menards and whatever we got to do. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're looking at that site there, it looks like it's a Zelle account that you're going to be using, or if you take a picture of the barcode there,
yes,
it'll I don't even know how that works. The QR code. I've never done that before. Oh, it goes
QR
right to
code
Venmo.
for Venmo.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha. We need to get one of those Venmo for our donations, but okay.
I'll make one for you. It's fine.
Awesome. All right. So, folks, if you want to help out, $5, $10, whatever it is, to help us help Pastor Sean and the Rotary Club purchase the sheets of drywall that are needed for people to rebuild on Fort Myers Beach.
Mud and the screws, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And every night at midnight, we're going to update that main page right there with
Yes.
how much we've raised so far. So there will be a
Awesome.
ticker underneath that little small white box in the middle. That's what that space is for.
People love that. People love that. They love to see a running total so we can see how much more we need to raise and all that. And we'll keep pushing it out there.
You got it, brother.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Drive
All right.
safe. All right. All right, Pastor Sean, and we will keep everyone up to date on that. Before we get to Dan, I do want to tell everybody real quick about Laura Sanchez. We're actually trying to get Laura on the show. She's with who's she with there? Gonna make sure I do this right. I think I screwed this one. She's gonna help you get financing to help purchase or refinance on a home that needs updating or repair. It's based on the projected after repair value, not existing condition. Overcome the 50% FEMA rule regarding damaged homes in the flood zones. It's owner occupied second homes or investments. The maximum amount is $3 million. She's the vice president of mortgage lending. So give Laura Sanchez a call at Affinity today at 239-895-0657, 239-895-0657. And we're hoping to have Laura on the show so she can, in the next few weeks, so she can tell you more.
And I'm going to try not to
About the
pick
money.
on you or interrupt you.
When I'm doing what? Reading the ads?
Nope. Just in your general comments.
Oh, thank you. All right. The mayor was waiting patiently. We asked him to come on 10 minutes later so we could talk to Pastor Sean, and there he is, Mayor Dan Allers. Mayor, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
Everything-
You
your
always
hair
seem to
looks
be in a different
fantastic.
spot. Oh, thank you.
Who told you to say that?
Nobody. I thought I'd get a little brownie point.
So-
You always are coming to us from a different background. Where are you this evening?
Well, we're in our new home or newer home.
Nice.
Yesterday was the first day that we actually got to take a shower in the same place that we woke up. So it's pretty exciting. We broke down and went and found something that had an actual working hot water heater. And so this is our second day in it. And so that's why you're seeing a little different background.
Well, just to be clear, everybody, Dan is not in a house. He's in another trailer, so it's not like he's back in
Yeah,
the
I'm not
house
living-
somewhere.
Yeah, we're not living
So-
high on the hog here. That's for sure.
Thank you for coming out yesterday with Councilman Adderholt and those the hundreds of people we had out there on the sidewalk, and you were out there pushing some kind of machine around, picking up sand, and it was just a great scene to see everybody out there cleaning up.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. I went down and saw you at 7:00 or whatever it was in the morning, 7:30, and just seeing the people already out that early shoveling that sand were pretty cool. And I thought, well, there's plenty of shovelers. We need people to move some debris, move some stuff around. So I got this little stand-up skid steer that I got right after the storm to help clean up our yard, and so I brought that down. And another guy had one that it looks like he rented, and it just kind of grew from there. People added a couple more big ones. A guy came down with a big front end loader and happened to run into Jim in front of town hall, and thought it was very symbolic that the two of us were right in front of town hall cleaning up our own backyard, if you will. So,
And
it was
one of
a
the
great event.
one of the folks out there with the front loader, I think, was Mike Bannock, who's he's just constantly trying to find ways to help people. And even after that, he was asking how he could help. So we want to thank Mike for getting out there, just showing up out of nowhere with that machine out there.
Yeah, I saw some people that either rented or owned the things you wear on your back with the blowers. And I mean, they were really,
They were being
people-
creative.
yeah, they were into it. And that group, it was a mature group out there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, those people were out there working, and they were.
I wonder if the Aleve sales went up at the.
There was
At
some
CVS,
store people today.
There was
a
some store people. I saw a lot of them walking back. I went back to load up my my stand-up skid steer, and I saw people walking. Carrying their shovels in that back towards the north end, and I thought, oh boy, they look like they don't have as much jump in their
Energy.
steps as they did before.
No, there was a couple that said they were golfing in the morning
Oh,
today.
yeah. Right.
That's
Tell you
that
that-
could take some Bengay,
The sidewalks look great, though. I mean, they
Yeah.
look really
Great.
good. I mean, there's a couple piles that still need to be picked up, but it looks great. It's been
People
nothing
just
but
wanna help.
positive. Nothing but
Yeah, people
positive.
just want to help.
Exactly.
Yeah, the great thing about yesterday too, and then we'll move on, is that the weather was perfect. I mean, it didn't get hot until later on in the day, and so
Yeah.
people really, it was a perfect. The day before would have been a little bit worse because it was chilly and windy, but we got a perfect day for it, which was
Well, and the wind was blowing to the Gulf.
Right.
If there was a wind, it was blowing to the Gulf. So at least that you weren't, fighting that all day.
So Dan, before we get to the big kahuna that was talked about today at the town council meeting, what can you update us on FPL? I know that came up a little bit, and you got a meeting Friday.
Yeah, we've got a conversation with our local person that we've dealt with, Charlotte Miller, and I believe one of her bosses that will give us an update this Friday. So we'll see where that goes. We've given that initial number to Director Guthrie and his staff to kind of chew on, and obviously Adam Botana, and we've shared the initial numbers, and nobody's happy with that number, to be honest. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll see what they have to offer us on Friday.
Okay, and we're talking, just so everybody knows, we're talking about the Estero Boulevard lighting and what FPL is going to do to help out with that. What about Old San Carlos? That road is completely dark still. Is that the same deal there, or is that something else?
Well, I mean, that's not our jurisdiction. You're talking about before the bridge, Old San Carlos, or are you talking about?
No,
are you talking about before the bridge, or are you talking about Old San Carlos? That's so the numbers that you're talking about on the island. So everything that we've talked about with these numbers includes an island-wide solution for amber lighting. That's the side streets. That's Old San Carlos, North Estero Boulevard. Essentially, to be 10,000 foot view, it's $30,000 a month roughly to the town to get that done, which comes out to about $4.6 million. So,
right, but there were lights on Old San Carlos before the storm. Their lights are still there. It looks like. Is there a reason they
fixtures
were on? Yeah.
Well, the fixtures are there. They keep getting lights on. It seems every time I look, there's a new light on. So they're progressing to get some more and more lights on. But most of Estero, south, I would say, of the Lani Kai is pretty lit that I can tell. Still really dark as you come over the bridge. They're well aware that we need to get some lights down there. It's not just us. It's everybody's letting them know that we can't. It's very dark when you come over that bridge.
Yeah. So is there any update that you can give us on La Ola's container? We talked about that last week, and there was some stuff going on. Anything new?
No, I haven't had any conversations since last week, as far as where that's going with FEMA. But
okay, and nothing. This is a pain, but did anybody give you an update on Bayside Park that you know of? Nothing.
No, we've got a list together. As I told you, Director Guthrie's been busy with some family issues, and so we're doing our best to not bother him. So we're working with Glenn, our local FDM rep that's down here, to put together a list so that we can when we do have a meeting, it's efficient. They can get the answers for us that we're looking for, as opposed to meeting and asking the questions and have them get back to us. So we'll be sending that off to them. If not today, tomorrow, probably, to try to get some answers to some of these, or at least get an update.
Okay, and the last question before we get to the beach renourishment is the state legislature's in special session to talk about helping Fort Myers Beach out in other communities. Is there any update from them?
No, I haven't had a chance to. I'm sure Representative Botana's pretty busy, so I haven't reached out to him yet to see how it went today. I just got in the house a little bit ago, so I'll try to touch base, if not tonight, tomorrow morning.
Okay, so the beach renourishment was a big deal today, and can you kind of tell us where we're starting out with? It looks like we're starting out with an emergency berm that FEMA is going to pay for to get some of that sand back on the beach as quickly as possible. Can you start with that?
Yeah, that's I believe, as Mike Plouffe said today, that it's 6 months after the storm to get that done. That's a truck sand that gets brought in. I don't know off the top of my head all the exact cubic yards. I think it was right around 90,000 cubic yards for that emergency berm. That would bring it back up to that 6.5 foot level from sea level, to fill in some of those scours. As you saw in the presentation today, he showed a couple of scenarios that had the scours that needed a little bit more sand because they were at about 2 feet and they need to be brought up to what the berm was before the storm. That's to give us protection through the next hurricane season so that we could start the beach renourishment that was already scheduled to be done after that.
Okay, and that's 75% FEMA paid for and 25% state. I just want to make sure I clarified that. It's not all FEMA money. It's 75, 25.
Right, and the state
so-
is picking up the other 25%.
So no cost to the town on that.
No,
Correct.
as far as I know. So 6 months after the storm, it's already 4 months after the storm. Do you have 2 months left in order to get this done?
Yeah, well, that's what it sounded like, and I think that was what the urgency was that you heard from Mike and Chad today. Is we need to get moving because it is truck sand that has to be brought in, and I think that's why there was some hesitancy with trying to change. There was a little confusion on my part. I wasn't quite understanding the 3 options that were there, but you could still use the other ones. And it took us a little while to get to what the scenario was and what the answers were, but we eventually got there. And now it's just a matter of getting everybody on board to sign these easements. The more easements we get signed, the better the entire island will be.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the easements? Because I've talked to some people and they don't want to sign it because they have some concerns.
Before you talk about that, in relation to the easements, do the easements have anything to do with the emergency sand? Or is the emergency sand completely different and it's coming in with whether or not you sign an easement or not?
No, it's essentially at the very end of the meeting, which it was quite a long meeting, so I'm sure most people had bugged out. But Mr. Perry asked that question, or not that question, but I think it was covered by our town attorney, that it's technically 2 separate easements. So you still have to sign the easement. The easement is for the workers to go onto your property. Mm-hmm. You could choose not to sign the easement and you won't get that emergency berm, but you're exposing yourself obviously to a potential storm or some kind of influx of water. So that berm is there to protect you from that. The beach renourishment is essentially the same thing. And the question was, well, if I do one, do I have to do the other? And John said, theoretically, no, you don't have to, but why would you do one if you don't do the other? So the berm is there to be an emergency. That's why they call it an emergency berm, to get the sand back, to protect those, the coastal homes on the island. And then when they come back in and do the full beach renourishment, they'll bring that sand in, and that kind of levels everything off and goes back out. And what I thought was really interesting about it that I didn't know is anybody that's been in the Gulf, you've got that little, there's what we call the sandbar that's out there. You go out a little ways and there's a little sandbar that would essentially level that off. Mr. Perry was talking to me about that, how that would level that off. It allows for you to cut down those dunes. As you heard today, they get too big and come down to like 2 feet. I think there's a number, and don't quote me on that specific number, but I think it's the 2 feet. So there's a lot of things within this 15-year easement that are really beneficial and haven't been done before in other coastal communities. And the town of Fort Myers Beach will benefit from that. I had a conversation after the meeting with Mr. Perry about it, and to be able to rake that sand and make it better, it will actually help sea turtle nesting. It will actually help the town of Fort Myers Beach, clean it up. So we've got another screen coming in. There we go.
Yeah,
I'm trying to pull up some
He
of the
does
stuff
this
you guys
without
were
saying
talking
Look
about.
at you, you're
anything,
getting
and
all
it's a little-
technical on me.
Yeah.
Can I just ask real quick? So the scours that need to be, that need sand, are those in places where people have to sign an easement, or no, those can be done?
Well, if it's on your private property, we're working on the beach accesses that were scoured, and that's the sand I think that you've seen sifted down on Newton Park. I don't claim to be an expert on this. I try to pick Chad's ear as much as I can because he's a wealth of knowledge with this stuff. But the scours have to be filled in, and I think that's part of the beach renourishment, not the beach berm.
Okay.
But I think that there are some scours that would get filled in because when Mike made the presentation today, it seemed as though if there was scouring along where the berm would be, that would be filled in, if that makes sense. At least that's how I understood it. If where the berm is going to go, there's a scour, that scour would be filled in so that the berm could be brought up to the level required.
Is there a certain percentage of the homeowners on the beach property, on the Gulf property, that have to sign the easement in order for this emergency to go through? This is where I started to get confusing. Is there a certain
I guess the easiest way to say it is, let's say in a perfect world, everybody signs. That's what we hope for. That allows that berm to go the entire length of the island.
Right.
If you choose to not be involved in that, which I don't remember the block, but they talked about the part that was excluded. I think it's 6,000 block that was excluded from the permit for the beach renourishment. They just won't get sand. So you certainly can say, I do not want to have sand, or I don't want to sign the easement. You just won't get sand. What we have to avoid is Ed says, I want to sign, let's say Ed and Kim, you sign it, Kim doesn't, I sign it, Megan doesn't, and you're skipping over properties. That's where it doesn't become feasible and it just can't be done because there's a lot of equipment to move around. I think that's the point that Mike was trying to get across today is, the more people sign for this easement, the better the entire beach will be, the better we're protected. As he made, I think it was the Sunset Grill property or the Pierside property that opted back at the last beach renourishment to not do it. They had a pond essentially, but that's the pond they had to deal with. So it is completely a personal decision whether or not you do or do not want to do it. However, if you do it, it protects you. It protects the island as a whole. So, we're asking everyone to sign the easement so that we can be one continuous berm. We can be one continuous.
Well, let me just ask. So when you were saying that, you meant like if you were saying me and Ed and you and
Yeah.
You're saying if a group of contiguous houses versus, every other house, or that was what you were talking about, like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Otherwise, you're going to have that. You would have the up, down, all the way across the beach, and that's certainly not the best scenario for the residents or the beach.
Yeah, I wonder if that could even be done. Like, I don't know if that would even.
We
be
know
feasible.
there's some places on the south end that aren't going to sign it, and so how is that going to impact this emergency berm?
Well, they just won't get sand. It's that simple. If you don't sign the easement, you don't get sand. It's
okay. So it doesn't mean it does. There's not going to be a scenario where there's a possibility where this doesn't happen.
You lost me on that. I'm not sure.
But there's not going to be enough people that don't sign the easement where this project becomes a waste of time. I worry about that. Is there going to be people that say I'm not going to sign the easement, and then somebody's going to say, well, screw this, we're not doing it?
Well, that's a very good question. You mean as far as the state and the federal government saying we're not going to do it? Honestly, I don't know that answer. I would have to ask Mike and Chad that. I don't know that for sure.
What are the total number of easements that need to be signed?
I don't know that number either. I meant to ask that, and there were so many things going on, I completely forgot. It was in my notes, and I didn't realize it till afterwards. But what I'm working on getting, or what I will work on tomorrow to get, is how many have been signed, how many do we have to have signed to make it, a viable project or not a viable project, and if we don't have that, will it not happen? The questions that you're essentially asking, I had in my notes to ask, but I didn't get to it.
So Julie was asking, what about condos that are involved with the easement? Does the condo board have to sign for the easement? For example, our condos on the south end by Pinchers and Wyndham.
I believe so. Yeah. Dave Nussbaum will probably be the perfect person to ask that. He's obviously been the most vocal one for the condos, but I believe it would be the condo or the condo association would have to sign on that they're going to, not just a specific condo owner.
Yeah. And his is it Islands End or Islands Winds? I get them mixed up down there. I mean, their sand behind their building is beautiful. I mean, it looks like they probably, I would say they probably don't need any assistance. Does that sound right to you if you were over there looking at what they have set up?
Well, that's certainly been their case all along, that they're an accreting beach, not a beach that needs sand. So they made their case to the council, they made their case to the town, and they are not included in that permit. So that again is their discretion. That's what they feel, and they were within their rights to say that. And
what do you think? Well, what do you think? What do you think? You think they should get the sand?
Well, what I think now and what I thought on September 27th are two different things. I don't know specifically the damage that they incurred. I don't know that a beach berm would have saved anybody in this case, obviously, but in certain situations, it's been explained to me that the berm is there to protect normal high water times. I guess if it were me, if you're asking me specifically if I live there, if I would do it, the answer would be yes.
Okay. So the way I think Mike said the project was going to start is going to the two different areas, right? Because of the shorebird nesting season and because the Matanzas bridge is being dredged. What's the time frame if this actually starts?
Well, it would be, they're saying roughly March for the emergency berm, and then the beach renourishment would be just after the turtle season.
Gotcha. And the way they're going to do it is with pipelines.
Yeah, I've seen it done before. They bring in these big tubes that they pump the sand underneath the Gulf of Mexico, and it comes up on the shore, makes a pile, and they disperse it out, and level and grade it and do the things that they do. And I think he said it works in about 1,000-foot sections. So you'll see that pipe. They'll build sand over the top of that pipe to be able to allow people to access the water in certain spots, not the entire pipe. And then that'll be there for a week or two, and then it moves down to the next 1,000-foot section.
And that's for the renourishment. The emergency berm is going to be trucked in sand from Immokalee,
It's all
right?
trucked in sand, yes.
He did that.
And I believe it was a couple months, something like that.
Yeah.
Was the time frame.
Now, people.
So when they're taking that, when they're for the beach renourishment or nourishment, whatever we're calling it, the pipeline will be out for that sand, where the sandbar you were talking about. That's where the sand will come out from.
No, it'll be actually from the shoal. It's out. It's kind of out between like Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, kind of out that way. But I think he had made mention today about a secondary one, because now after Ian, there's I think he said it was 27 or 29 nautical miles that were out that would be used for both Fort Myers Beach and Lover's Key in conjunction. So the one shoal area that they had picked out or that had been identified before the storm would have been able to do Fort Myers Beach, but now they have to find it. They found a second location to be able to pump the sand in. So that's a long way to run a pipe.
I was just going to, yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's a lot of pipe.
Yeah. So there have been some questions about the kind of sand being brought in from the trucks. Can you put everybody's mind at ease that that's going to be okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think Councilor Veach, he talked about today that he had some sand brought in, and it looks a little bit different, but over time, Mother Nature bleaches that sand and it kind of blends in together. So you will see an initial difference, but over a year or two, it sounds like that they kind of come in, but the quality is the same. And I think that's what Mike was referring to, is the size of the sand and the quality of the sand is the same. The stuff that comes in the trucks, the stuff that comes from the shoal will be a little bit darker, and over time that'll get bleached in and it'll look the same. So, but they assured us today that it was going to be the same quality sand. It just may look a little bit different for a while.
Lori emailed me and also is typing in a question here about notarized. Something needs to be notarized. Paperwork, the form says notarized in Florida, notary. Our board is all over the U.S., none in Florida. Can we just cross through and put the state and county the president lives in?
Well, I'm certainly not a lawyer, but I would be willing to bet any lawyer is going to tell you can't just cross through something.
Yeah,
I would have to refer to John Heron on that. But my guess is usually you can't just cross out something because it doesn't fit your specific need. But
when I fill out my taxes to the IRS, I just cross out the number they think I owe and put in my own number. I mean, what is there some problem with that? I mean,
no, not until you get caught.
Let's see. Why do these berms have to be built on private property? Why not on the public side of the beach?
Well, the private property is all the way down to the mean high water line. So, I mean, you would essentially be putting the berm right on the water, and I don't know that anybody would want to see that. And again, I'm not an engineer, but I guess that would be the best answer I could give without talking to an engineer. It's got to be put wherever the engineers decide it needs to be. And I think the state probably has a little bit to say in that with their engineers. But, if you own down to the mean high water line, that berm isn't going to last very long with Mother Nature.
Hey, Dan, do you remember the number Mike gave out today about how much sand was lost during the storm?
I don't. There were so many numbers and cubic yards. I don't know, but I know it was pretty significant.
I think I don't know. For some reason, I have 164,000 something or other in my notes.
Well, you had that slide up there. I think he kind of had it on there, didn't he?
Oh.
You'd have to go back and look. I don't have it in front of me, but
let's see. Because that'll give people an interesting perspective of what you guys are trying to do there. Oh, here we go. Preliminary opinion. No, that's the cost.
It was quite. It was pretty significant.
You tell me if you see it as I'm scrolling through here.
I mean, I don't
Oh, is that?
know if somebody could. How do you even think of that? Like, how many pools does that fill? I mean, you need, you need some
it's
reference.
a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I give Chad and Mike credit. I mean, these guys are very good at what they do, and they certainly, sometimes when you read through this, it can glaze you over, and you have to go through it 2 or 3 times to quite understand. So right there, go back up.
Go back up.
You see that where it says borough areas? Nope, go back down. See where it says borough areas?
Yep.
So you see that one red dot that's way down there, kind of at the south of Fort Myers Beach, and off that other shoal that you were talking about earlier, Kim. That's that 27 or 29 miles away.
Oof.
That's where they're getting the sand from to pipe
That's
in?
the secondary spot. The other spot is up. It's hard to see, but there's an arrow kind of in the top right corner a little bit.
Gotcha. All righty.
There's the volume.
Does that mean anything to you right
there? You go, Mark.
905.
Yeah, so it was about 100, looks like 131,000 cubic yards is what it looks like if you look at March 2022 and the volume in 2023 of January. So you subtract that 905 from that 1,036,000, you get about 131,000 cubic yards roughly.
Crazy.
That would be my guess. Yeah, and then I think it was at a cost of about roughly $2 million, give or take, from what it was. It was 23 million. Now it's 25 million.
So let's talk about the vegetation and the plans to plant oats, sea oats, and you guys are throwing around names of plants I'd never heard before. But so there, you in order for you to get the sand, you have to build these dune thingamajigs, right? And this is where.
You have to have the dunes, and you have to have 75% of your property has to have some sort of vegetation on it, which leaves you the 25% for pass-throughs or whatever. My understanding after today was there can be a mixture of these different species to create, what you want to create. But I still am a little confused as to, can I put 25% sea oats, 25% railroad vine? I mean, I'm still trying to figure all that out. I think we would have had more time to kind of work through this, but with the beach berm, emergency berm, it's kind of sped up the decision to have to get this done.
Now, why do you need to why do you need to have this vegetation? Why can't it just be a beach?
Well, it has to protect it, so it's meant to. That's I'm probably going to butcher this, and Chad, if he's listening, is probably going to kill me when he sees me. But you have to have it to protect the sand, to protect it's essentially
it helps hold the sand in place.
Yeah, I think Mr. Torgerson today referred to it in public comment under as a snow fence, and being from the Midwest, everybody knows what a snow fence is. And as a snow fence, when it catches the snow that's blowing, or in our case the sand, it accumulates and it grows, and then it gets taller and it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And part of this that I don't know a lot of people knew or know about is that you're allowed to bring those back down. I think it's to that 2 foot, right around there. I believe Chad told me it's like 2 feet. You can scrape this berm under this permit. You can scrape this berm down. And in my conversations with,
I think it was 18 inches.
It's 18 or 2 foot, somewhere in there. But you can manage it and bring it back down. Which, in speaking with Mr. Perry, that's a gift. That's not very many people have gotten that. So
just to be clear, if you're part of the beach renourishment, you have to have one of these 3 plans. The combination of the 3 plants. There might be a 4th one coming.
Sorry.
No worries. And so you get these plants. You don't have to pay for them, I guess, right? They're part of the whole deal. Somebody else pays for them, the state or the feds or whatever. And if, let's say, they grow to 4 feet, you can go out there with your clippers and cut them down 2 feet, and you're good to go.
Well, yeah, my understanding is you can manage them and bring them down. And whereas before you can't. I saw in the scroll here, the comments, someone asked about the 15 years. That was a requirement that was put in by the state. As far as the length of term. So, for the next 15 years, you won't have that. I don't want to call it a lagoon or whatever the technical term is for it, that we see when it gets out to that second sand, that sandbar that's out there that usually has that little tidal pool of water in it before, you can walk out and it's down, then you come back up and then you go back down again. This essentially for the next 15 years, we could maintain that. We could, people like Mr. Perry, and that they could get out there and they could manage that to keep it a nice slope down into the water, so you don't have that what we have now. So that's a positive as well.
You're going to ask something about the. So
No.
So people have to, if they sign the easement, that means that now we're talking about not the emergency one. If they sign the easement, they have to put in one of these 3, maybe 4, if you get the other one passed. Planting.
So that's where my confusion came today. It was an approved vegetation, this railroad vine. However, until the very end, when Chad spoke, I didn't know that was something that they could use. And I think I was getting confused because Mike was saying 100% railroad vine, and he wouldn't recommend that. And that's where I was kind of hung up. And I think by adding this, someone could do 100% railroad vine. And I'm still a little unclear on it, to be honest with you, but that's the way I see it, is that if you would have went through and added this 4th one, it would have made one more work. It would have cost more money. And he had never seen where you could do 100% of this in his.
You're not going to try and get that 4th one through.
No, I rescinded my motion because after he explained it, it made a little more sense to me. And I'll be the first to admit I am definitely not a vegetation expert. A green thumb is not something that I was born with.
Tom from TPI came to the council meeting today, and he said he had a problem with these plans here. What is he interested in the plan being? Like, is there a percentage that he'd prefer or some different plan?
Well, he, like everyone else on the beach, Mr. Nussbaum and everyone else that has had issues with it, is they're worried about their view corridor. That's a thing that they pay a lot of money for these properties, and they want to protect their view, and that has been the biggest hurdle. So I think Tom's point was, we shouldn't have to do something that's going to obstruct our view for people that come to our property, much like the South End condos were saying. So I think that they worked it out. I think that Chad was paying attention to what people were saying. He worked over the weekend to come up with a solution. I think there's a solution that can work for everyone, and it seems like we're moving forward. And the good thing is staff now is, in general, is really willing to work with its residents and trying to come up with a solution that best suits everybody and still fulfills all the requirements that we have to follow. So that's a positive thing. I can't say that we've had that in the past, at least in my experience. And so that's just another step forward.
Is the rule that, let's say just a TPI property, for example, right on the beach there, and do you have to have 75% of your beachfront property there needs to be plantings at 75% of it? That's 10 feet wide. Is that the rule?
For the dune, yeah. I mean, that's essentially the rule, 75-25.
The rule for the plantings
of your property.
Right.
Yes.
So if he's got chairs out there that, for the resort, where do these plants have to be? By the seawall?
Well, I think it's going to be different for every
use them for an example. Just use them for an example. They got the seawall, then is that where they go?
Honestly, I don't know where the berm or the sand dune would be on his specific property. I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know where it would be on anybody's specific property in relation to.
Am I getting things confused?
On the other side of where the seawall is exposed, it would be.
Well, you keep saying sand berm. Am I getting confused? I'm talking about these plantings. These
The plants are on top of the dunes.
Okay, so let's not talk about the dunes. I want to know where those plants are going to be when I'm sitting at the resort looking at the water. Is 75% of that property have to be plantings?
Yeah, and it's up to the property owner where they want that 25%, their walkthrough, if you will, to be. It could be on the far left, it could be on the far right, it could be in the middle, it can be. That's up to the property owner to work out in the design process. Then I think that's what Mike was alluding to today is, if you start adding all these different vegetations that people could possibly have, that just makes more work because now you got to figure out what plant goes where on what part of the 75% that has to be covered. But it's my understanding that the 25% can essentially be kind of where you want, but you have to do 75%.
I know. I guess 75%. Is that a town rule or is that a state rule or who puts that rule? It seems like a lot.
It's not. I don't believe it's a town. I think it's the state.
Okay, because covering 75% of your view from the resort is a lot to me. I mean,
the point is that you don't, and I think part of this 15 years being able to maintain these down to a level that won't affect people's view is kind of the whole point. That is part of this 15-year easement. It allows you something that you weren't able to do before. You weren't able to. My understanding from talking to Mr. Perry is you were not able to knock down that sand berm or plantings or whatever you want to call it. You weren't able to maintain that like you would be able to do under this one.
So if it's 18 inches, whatever that is, then that's somebody's got to be sitting up 18 inches above, and they'll still be able to see out.
But it's 6. But the berm is 6 feet, right? The berm, the emergency berm.
6 feet above sea level. I asked that question today because that's a lot of angst that people have is that they hear 6 feet or 6.5 feet. They think I'm going to have a 6 foot sand dune in front of my, if I'm sitting in my pool. That's not the case. It was hard to see with his charts, and it's on what you have there. If you actually look at that orange and red line that's on there, if you look on the far left-hand side, it shows you sea level, and then it goes up to 5-10 feet. It's 6.5 feet above sea level. So in some cases, if you scroll down, it's down a little further, but keep going and we'll get there and I can show you. Yeah, that ain't the best one yet, but essentially, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it there, but keep going. Right there, go back up. It's the white one right above the funding and schedule, that one. So if you look at that one, if you look straight across the middle, there's that 0. That's the sea level. And if you look, there's an orange and a red, and it shows you pre-existing where it was. So the sand at that level where that berm is already looks like 3.5 feet. So your existing grade at this point is only going to be 1.5 feet of sand there. Does that make sense? You're not going to have 6 feet there. You're going to have, so if you're
measuring from the 0. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the example below it, if you see how it's got that scour that comes down to almost 1 foot, in that case, you're going to have 6 feet of sand, but your still overall height from sea level is only going to be 6 feet. Does that make sense?
Not to me.
Less than the other.
So you got to. So if you look at that orange and red line on that top scenario right there, it's at about 5 feet roughly, right?
Yeah.
If you look to the left, you see that 5.
Yeah.
You're only going to have 1.5 feet of sand. That little berm, you're only going to have 1.5 feet of sand there. You're not going to have.
It goes up.
So you're not going to get 6 feet of sand there. You're going to have in this scenario, you're going to have 1.5 feet of sand. The scenario below it, because it's scoured out where the berm is going to be at 1 foot, you're going to have 5 feet of sand there just to fill in that scour.
Yep.
But your overall height is not going to be 6. It won't be over 6.5 feet above sea level.
Gotcha.
So the easiest way to say it, and I think I'm trying to say it the easiest way because that's how I had to understand it, is the red and orange line is essentially what we have right now for sand. That's what you see now when you're walking down the beach. That little berm.
Even after the storm?
Even after the storm, yes. That's what you see. So the red and orange tells you what it looked like, and that's what was essentially there before. There's a couple other slides that show you that what was there before, but this is what it would look like. This is what you're looking at now. And then you'll have that in the top scenario, you'll have that 1 or 1.5 foot of sand there to give you that berm. Okay. So you're not talking a huge amount,
And then plantings on top of that.
Right.
So if you're, let's say
well, wait a minute. So the plantings that go on top of it, so the measurement, I guess, is the thing. So then the plantings, when they're just planted, they're flat at that, and then it goes up. So it'll be that the height of the sand berm, and then the additional 18 inches or whatever you're allowed to bring it back to.
That's my understanding. Yeah, you can bring it back down to whatever it needs to be. And I'm not a plant guy, so I don't know how fast these grow. I don't know that. I don't know. I know that some of the stuff is like that low weedy looking stuff. But
So if you're just staying on the Margaritaville property for a second, do you know where they stand as far as like sea level? You mentioned before a couple times, 6 feet above sea level. Are they going to get more sand from this whole renourishment thing out there, and is it going to raise it up higher so that it, and then with the emergency berm, I'm just trying to picture how high it's going to be if you're sitting on that seawall there. They have a seawall there. Do you know how
again, on their specific property, I don't know. But the beach renourishment, when it goes through, it'll come back in and it'll fill that back in. But again, the emergency berm is just what it says. It's an emergency berm to protect against the wave action from the Gulf of Mexico during the next hurricane season.
So the Pierside Grill property, is that the one on the corner there with the steps that are out on the grid? Okay.
Yep.
So like that's like a major, there's no where to walk there anymore because of, especially when the tide is up high. Can you give the folks a picture, like, if how far out the sand is actually going to be when this beach renourishment project is done in that spot? Will there be 15, 20 feet out, or do you have any idea?
Honestly, I don't off the top of my head. I mean, it's in the beach renourishment. It shows you kind of how far the sand will be away, but that was done obviously before Ian. So I don't know how much beach would be there, but that's the area. That's the area that didn't take the nourishment last time.
Yeah. So will those stairs still be there?
What's that?
Will those stairs still be there? Or are they going to need to be taken down?
A good question. I mean, I think those were on the seaward side of the coastal construction line, so
they're coming out. He's just not saying it. They got to come out. What are they going
to? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if because they were there, they stay there, or if they have to be torn out. Honestly, I don't know.
Oh, well, while we're on Times Square, there's still big, giant chunks of concrete in that Times Square area. Do you have any update on when that's going to be moved?
Trust me. No, I work on it every week.
Gotcha.
The property owner has gone through Ian Debris cleanup and filed his information with the state. The state is working on getting in there. I don't know what the time frame is, honestly, but we're well aware of it. It's high on my radar. I want that cleaned out of there as soon as possible. I've been working with ACDC. Heidi is our point of contact. She's been great. You call her, she gets you information as fast as you can. It may not be what you like, but she'll get you the information fast. So trust me, it's not being forgotten. It's something I bring up to the point where I think people are tired of me asking about it.
Okay, and that's a private property there. That's not town chunks of concrete. That's a building.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's 3 pieces of property there. There was a Pierside, the Dairy Queen building, Anita's store was in there. I think it's 2 or 3 pieces of property are all owned by the same person.
Yeah. And just for clarification purposes, Lynn Hall Park might open on April 15th, correct?
That it's a tentative date that I think was provided. I don't think that anything was set in stone, but I believe they put out a press release. Lee County Parks put out a press release. At least that's my understanding, that there had some tentative dates on it. And I believe last time we talked about it, I think I tried to preface that it was a tentative dates. They weren't set in stone. Like everything else, you have to wait for inspections and get things done. And it's not just a council or a commission decision to be able to do this. You have to work through the process with FEMA and make sure you're getting reimbursed.
What?
I was just someone was asking, and you may not know, but has the Wyndham Garden been sold?
Honestly, I don't.
Okay.
Know. I haven't heard anything.
Someone else was asking, how many residents are still homeless, if you know?
Honestly, there's no way I could ever possibly tell that. There's, short of asking everyone to check in with the town, I don't know how we could possibly get that information. And I think FEMA and the state have done a good job of presenting us numbers with how many people have applied for assistance and how many people have received assistance. But short of that, I don't know how we can get down to that specific number.
When I was doing the tour of the Pink Shell over the weekend, Bill was telling me how many FEMA families they have in that resort, and I was like, "Wow, I had no idea that there were so many people that are."
How many?
I think the one whole building is full. Like, yeah,
I think I'm pretty sure all of their, and I don't know, it's been a week or two since I've spoke with Bill, but I believe that pretty much every room they had available was filled with.
Yeah.
With
they're coming along great, though. I mean, they're really working hard over there. And
well,
the Best Western,
I think
too.
all the resorts are doing the best they can. Best Western,
Right.
Diamond Head. I mean, they're all moving along. Again, it's hard to believe it was only 4 months ago, but
Yeah.
to see the progress that the island has made, it just shows you the resiliency of this community, and it's really an uplifting thing to see that the smiles are coming back, and it's you still have days where it knocks you back down, and it reminds you that there was a hurricane. It was just only 4 months ago.
It would be really amazing if we could get governments to work as quickly as the businesses, but that's a whole nother story. Speaking of government, any news on your building there, the town hall with the dangling wires that doesn't seem to have been touched at all? Any news?
It's we had a meeting the other day last week with our insurance carrier, League of Cities, and it's grim to say the least. It's not a good number. We did get the okay to get the building taken down, so we're working with FDM to figure out how we can get that process done. I can't remember the name off the top of her head. She called me on Saturday, and we spoke for a while about it. They are working on it. They hopefully this week we'll hear something as to the best route to get that done. But we want to get that down and get this process started, trying to rebuild as fast as we can, because it's going to take some time. But that's where we're at on that. But as far as insurance goes, we were insured for just under 16 million. We were very much underinsured. The policy that we had essentially was, and again, I'm no insurance person, but essentially, because you're underinsured, there's a contingency thing that comes in, and long story short, we're looking at best right now $5 million of that 15.
Oh, no way.
Wait a minute. $5 million what? That's what you're going to get out of the 16 million?
That was the original conversation. Obviously, we still got to. There were some projects and some properties that weren't identified on that initial list. In our conversation, obviously, we had the same reaction that you just had. The town's no different than every other individual that's probably watching this. You got to deal with your insurance company. You got to go through the process. It's not fun. It's not easy. That's why we've reached out with the state and asked for appropriations. We need help as we're going through the process, just like everyone else. So, we're going through it. We're doing our due diligence. We're still working with them. And
so wait a second. Go ahead.
I'm so confused. Who pays for it you got the approval to knock it down? And so FEMA's going to pay for that removal?
Well, that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're trying to, just like any other business owner or every other homeowner.
Yeah.
We're trying to go through the debris cleanup site to get that removed.
You've got $5 million.
They're talking. I think Dan's talking about every single town
island wide. Yes.
Not just town hall, every single town property. $5 million. What a screw job that is, man. Holy moly.
You need a public adjuster.
Well, trust me, and Chris Holly and Keith Wilkins are they're not new to this.
I'm not suggesting I know anything more and far less than those two guys. It was more just
no, they're fully aware. You have to have that initial meeting with them to see where they're at, and of that potential 5 to 6 million, we've already been given 3 million advance on it. So we don't have a lot of money still coming from them if it stays the way it is. For me, the bigger issue is how grossly underinsured we were. And, there's a lot of reasons. Well, I mean, that, as everybody knows, insurance premiums cost money. And, they're great when you're paying low stuff like that, when you're not dealing with an accident or you're dealing with a hurricane. But once you have an incident like this, you find out how important it was to have proper insurance, and we didn't have it for one reason or another. And my guess is because it costs more money, which means that you got to raise the taxes, and we all know how those conversations go. So, I'm learning a lot about this as I go through the municipal side of it, and all you can do is learn from your mistakes, and I consider that a mistake. And you move forward, and you deal with what you got, and you work with your state partners, and we keep moving.
What were we gonna say?
No, I was just going to say that the insurance, I mean, you can get insurance on your house, and then when something happens, the cost to replace, like, was it that the cost to replace it just was something that couldn't have been forecasted then, or was it just really a shortage of it just?
Well, I'm guessing, and I can't speak for the decision maker in that back then, but my guess is it came down to choosing to put money other places as opposed to carrying proper insurance, and we're certainly paying for that now.
So before we let you go, there was one other thing that came up today that I think was a surprise to everybody listening, is that the $10 million loan that the town had taken out back in this previous council, there was a stipulation that said that the Bay Oaks building needed to be done by, I think you said November or something this year, in order for that money for you to get that money, use that money. So that everybody knows that's not going to happen. Probably wouldn't even happen if there wasn't a storm.
It wouldn't have. And that's why I was less than pleased with that. When I found out about it, I wasn't happy. Let's put it that way, because it had never been explained to us, at least that I can remember. And maybe I missed it, but I don't remember ever having a conversation that this $10 million loan had a
Contingency on it.
Well, be a completed by date. I could understand if you have to use the money to at least start the project by a certain date, but an actual completion date was quite shocking to me. And there's obviously no way, even without the storm, that we would have been able to complete Times Square or Bay Oaks.
Right.
So why weren't we?
Where is that money now? Refresh my memory.
It's why I don't know the exact dollar amount we've used on it. The only money we've used on it is for Bayside Park, as far as I know. I want to say the number is like 7.9 or 8, somewhere in there, 7 or 8 million, somewhere in there that has been not used. So
that has not been used.
Yeah, gonna have to get it back.
So you're gonna get that and the other and whatever you used back.
Yeah, and as I think as the town manager said today, we've reached out to the bank. Our finance department has reached out to the bank to try to work with them to figure out other options to be able to reappropriate that or use it for something that we can help the town with. And because of the interest rates, there's not an appetite to do that.
Maybe, and there's no way to double dip on the Bayside Park thing, and you say we need to fix it again, and then we'll give the rest back, or because Times Square it's not going to be done for forever. I mean, there's just too many people involved in that project.
Obviously, the priorities I think have had to change since Ian, and as much as we would have all liked to see all three of those projects completed, that was the whole point.
So some of that money was used to fix Bayside Park before it was wrecked by Ian, right?
It was used to finish it.
Yeah. And
so
I think
now
there
was some money that was used towards some part of whether permitting or design, or there was something that was used towards Times Square, but there's still a great amount of money that's left that was not used.
And so if something doesn't change, then all of that has to go back, even the money that was spent. And
it doesn't go back. We haven't used it. It was a drawdown loan. So it wasn't like we took the money and we got it sitting in the bank. It was there. You take it. Then you're only paying interest on what you take. So we hadn't used a lot of that money.
Got it. All right, Dan. Anything else you want everyone to know before we let you enjoy your new digs?
I'm already enjoying them, man. I got to take a shower at without having to get dressed and go somewhere to take a shower. This it rejuvenated me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, you're living high on the hog now.
What's that?
You're living high on the hog now with indoor plumbing that you don't have to leave to go and use.
I think we haven't tried it yet. We're kind of afraid, but I think we actually have a working stove and a working, cooktop, but we haven't tried it yet. We're a little afraid, but yeah, so far so good. We have no complaints. We're fortunate. Let's put it that way. We're not complaining.
Well, thanks as always for coming on and answering the tough questions, and
appreciate your time and
appreciate it. And the people do. I mean, people have been saying, that they really appreciate you coming on, and
absolutely. And as I said before, if I don't have the answer, I'll do my best to get you the answer, and may not be what you like, but it'll be an answer.
All right. We'll see you Thursday at the next meeting.
Yep. See you then. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Mayor Dan Allers, everybody. Always great to have him on. And before we go, we want to remind everybody about, let's see, Liberty Roofing and Construction. Because, you know, you are going to have a house someday and you are going to need a roof someday. And Liberty Roofing and Construction is your trusted roofing company. They say that your roof will be done within 30 days of your permit issued, and it's a 50-year warranty. That's pretty damn cool. Give Patrick McKenna a call, 401-439-9585, 401-439-9585. You receive a free assessment by calling 401 Roofing or fill out a quote request at Liberty Roof Company, libertyroofco.com. Thank you guys so much. And finally, ATM Mortgage Advisors. We want you to give those folks a call. Jeff Tarbell at 916-718-5171. If you're waiting on insurance proceeds, and who isn't on Fort Myers Beach to repair or replace your home? That can be slow and frustrating. If you need access to money now, maybe it's time to talk with our friends at ATM Mortgage Advisors right here in Fort Myers. ATM has quick access to lines of credit for complete remodel or refund or rebuilding. You're looking to just purchase something new entirely, give them a call at 239-849-6999. That's atmmortgage.net is their website. And don't forget to go on the beachbaptist.org website and help us raise money for the drywall that the Rotary and the Beach Baptist are giving away on February 14th to everyone on the beach that needs it. All you need is a driver's license on February 14th, and you can get in line.
21st.
It's 21st. Don't get in line on the 14th. Are you
It's
sure?
Valentine's Day on the 14th.
Oh,
it's the
just 21st. There it is. And it's going to start at, I think he said 9:00. So get on beachbaptist.org. You could do
Get
your
there
little
early.
phony thing and
It's they say he said
but get in line early.
in 8 hours.
Thank you again to everybody for coming out to our sweep and for buying all the shirts. And we're shipping the hoodies this week. So if you placed a hoodie order, we'll get it out to you this week. So thank you all. We'll see you Friday night from Mangoritas. Bye-bye.